Okay, hey Sylvia. So, quick run through of the 3D printing process at the lab. I'm here on my laptop, but you can use computers in the lab. Um, the first thing you want to do when it comes to 3D printing, of course, is choose a model. If you don't have a model that you know you're going to use, there's two options in my mind. The first is SketchUp, which is like a free 3D modeling platform, and the free version is basically just in browser. So you sign up for an account and you can do it for free. And so this is what it looks like. There's a sort of a model there to show you like the size of the scale, and you can just start drawing freehand like this. Use some of the tools just to make fairly simple objects. It's composed of panels and lines, so that, for example, if you delete this, you'll see that it is hollow on the inside. The other option, of course, is the Thingiverse. So this is another free website, basically, and you can search for whatever. Really, this is user-generated content. People have uploaded this, and they're all free to use. So, for example, I use this sometimes. This little fox. It's nice and easy to print because it doesn't have many angles. It's not very detailed. Literally low poly. You just download it, wait a few seconds, and it will show up in your downloads folder. Now, when you open it, it'll be a zipped file, and inside that folder, you'll see the file. It's fox.stl. STL stands for stereolithography file, and the good thing is if you're on a Mac, you can open it with preview, and you can just, well, preview it. You can preview it like this. Which is pretty useful, especially for small models. Larger models, you'll have problems because of the size, but at least you can do that. If you want to like combine models and start making customizing stuff people have made on the internet, you can actually import an STL file. So I can do this. I can take the Fox, drop it into SketchUp, and import it as a component. And so you can see, we'll put it there on top of the box, or nearly on top of the box, I guess. Let's see if we can move that over there. There we go. And we can also scale this up. So let's see. There we go. So now you can see that the model, you can place it and edit it as you like. And then say you are finished with this. I'm just going to delete this guy. Say you are finished with this model. You can download the whole thing as a new STL file, and it'll be in your downloads file. And then now what you can do is you can import it into a final piece of software, which is MakerBot's own proprietary pre-flight software. So we can open this with MakerBot Print. This is, again, free software you can download off the internet. And it will prepare the model to be printed by a specific model of MakerBot. It's super small here, as you can see. We have a virtual build plate. This is a virtualized space where the model is going to get built. And you can control-click here to change the scale and build it up, let's say, 1,000% of its original size. And now, let's go to 5,000%. Now you can see it's starting to look familiar. Oops. It's starting to look familiar. And it is ready to do the pre-flight, which is here, a print preview, which will be where MakerBot Print simulates the process of printing this for real using resin. So it tries to figure out really how many lines of resin, how many layers of resin need to be made to make up this box with the fox on top. A box and a fox. The bigger models will take longer to do the pre-flight. There you go. And so you get a nice simulation of what it would look like. And on the left here, you can scrub. You can preview what each of the layers consists of. As you can see this box, what MakerBot has added is a kind of like a lattice or waffle structure on the inside, so that the box has some structure and some strength. And on top of that, you can see all the individually highlighted layers that make up the fox there, right up to the top. Useful on the right here, you've got material usage estimates, so 121 grams, less than a third of a large spool, and that based on if you were to start printing right now, it would be ready by midnight. It would take 8 hours 46 minutes. Now, I think that the estimates tend to be quite conservative. Usually it takes, maybe 20% less than that. But the most important, a very important thing here is to make sure that you are telling MakerBot which printer you're using. This is actually the wrong printer. It's the best approximation I could get for the moment. This is why I'm saying it's best to use the computer in the lab, because that version of MakerBot has the right MakerBot version listed on this software. So it will tell you exactly how long it will take, given the machine that we have in that lab. Settings here, you can choose to increase for example, the size of the lattice on the inside. You can choose if it wants to have a base raft or not, the orange thing here. That's designed to make sure you set up the model nice and flat. But generally, the generic settings are fine for most uses. And then when you're done, you can export. And in our case, I would export it to the SD card, which is on this computer. And I would press save. It says export failed, but I did these videos in different order. So just assume for the purposes of this video that I was able to export to an SD card, which I will now show you next. Okay, so I've got this SD card. I put the file onto it, and there's a little slot here in the 3D printer where you press it in and you can hear it click. There you go. When it clicks, it's in. And so you can turn on the 3D printer with a switch on the back just here. And if it's plugged in at the bottom like that, you'll see it turn on like this. The first thing you need to make sure, of course, is that there's resin or filament going into the back. So the resin feeds into this little hole, and behind it there's a reel here. Make sure there's enough. There's some stuff here which I've tested and I know that it's good. This stuff is okay. That stuff is okay. This is dark blue, and there's also purple. I don't know, this one I don't know if it's good or not. I haven't tested it, but there's some you can use anyway. So when you know you have the model right on the SD card, the first thing you want to do, I'm not going to do this now, but you can push this little tab back and pull out the build plate. And the build plate has masking tape, this green stuff on it, so that it's easier to pull the model off the plate. You can actually see all the scratches on the plastic here, where people have damaged the build plate by trying to scrape the model off the plate. But if you use this tape, then it comes off much more easily. When you're printing, this lab, the air in the lab is too cold, really, to print some larger models. So what I like to do sometimes is boil this kettle with a bit of water on it, and like put a bit of water in it, boil it, let it finish, and then just sit the build plate nearby just to warm the build plate up. Obviously be super careful doing that. Like it's not the ideal way to do it, but the point is that if you warm up the build plate a little bit, then the models don't cool as quickly. Ooh, they don't cool as quickly, and then they don't warp. If the resin is melted and then it cools really quickly, it starts to warp. And you can see this actually with this model. You can see how it's not actually a straight line with some of these models on the base. It came away because it shrunk. It just shrunk too fast. Okay, so let's say we were going to print something. So you can use these little arrows to navigate the menu. I can press down here. You can see the arrow going from one thing to another. Preheat is useful. You can heat up the heating element, which is here, to make sure that you're ready to print sooner. But I'm just going to go here, print from SD card, and then everything that's on the SD card will be listed here. I'll choose the 20-minute Fox here, which will look like the Fox that I showed you on the thingiverse.com. So the build plate comes up, and the first thing that will happen next is the heating element will start to heat up, and this takes a couple of minutes. So it comes over, and then it just waits, and you can see it's heating. So I'll stop the video here, and when it's fully heated, I'll start again. You can see it's at 30 degrees, 37 degrees, out of 230 degrees centigrade. That's how hot it needs to be. And the machine will just wait here, and you can hear it starting up. Okay, so we're nearly at 230 degrees now. Only takes about a minute or two. And when it starts, when it's hot enough, it'll start up right away. And you can see actually that a little bit of resin is already coming out of the nozzle here, because the resin is starting to, okay, here we go. And so it does a test line here. And this test line is very useful because when the line is straight, it means that the build plate is aligned. The build plate is aligned correctly. If this test line is all wiggly, it means you need to turn some of the bolts underneath the build plate to make sure it's more level. But here we've got a nice level line, and it should stay that way unless somebody knocks it. And as you can see now, it's going to start. It just starts building it from the bottom up, and that's it really. Now you just wait, and I will start the video again, I think, when we come to the end of the build. All right, here we go. So about 20 minutes later, the model's nearly done. As you can see, it's finishing off the ears, I think. Here on the display, it tells you how far through, and also how the progress on the top and the time left here. And so as the model finishes, the build plate comes down, and it makes a fun noise. And there you go. And this model is now pretty much already safe to touch. The resin dries very quickly, and you can just pull and lift it off. And there you have it. So the model sits on this raft, which you can actually break off. I don't know if I can do this with one hand, but yeah, I can't do this with one hand. But it sits on this raft, which is designed to make the model nice and stable, or nice and provide a flat surface on which to build. But you can break that off if you want fairly easily. The last thing to do, of course, is make sure you turn it off. Just to be extra safe, I turn this off at the back, and I also just unplug it, just so that I don't have nightmares. And that's pretty much that. It's safe. It's very safe stuff. It's not actually plastic. It's a form of starch, polylactic acid. So yeah, it's good. And that's pretty much it. So I think that concludes the workshop.